Hey guys, in this video we're going to be doing the budget run on Raxalotl. We're going to be going just for a clear for those of you that don't really have access to great gear or units. We're not going to use any modifiers. And here's the party we're going to use. We're going to be using a magical cover tank. For us it'll be Beatrix. You can use any magical cover tank you want. You want one that has some decent water and earth resist. We're going to use Runda for general mitigation and provoking the physical damage. He's a free unit. Everyone should have him. We're going to use Summerfina and Lid as our breaker as well as our healer. And she also brings Aqua Killer, which is a little bit convenient. But you can bring any breaker you want and any healer you want. We're going to use Cetra Descendant Aerith as our elemental support unit. She's going to be doing things like Holy Amplify, Holy Imbue, and that's basically it. And the DPS we're using are going to be Neovision's Awakened Elena and Starlight Elena. Now these can obviously imbue themselves with Holy, so Aerith is a little bit redundant, but we could swap out, for example, the Elenas for something like, you know, Chizuru or Sky in a tag chain or whatever you want. That way Aerith can still be here to support you, although that being said, you need to bring a Holy Imperil if you're not using Elena. Anyway, let's get a clear in, and then I will show you the gear and all at the end. It's very, very cheap gear, super budget. This won't be the quickest clear, but it'll be pretty safe and secure. Okay, so in the base form of Beatrix, she's using a little bit of auto buff gear, but Runda preemptively covers physical damage, and we do not want that because that is a bad thing. So on turn 1, immediately, Runda is going to use Rage Beast Roar on himself to dispel his physical cover, so he is no longer covering the party. Now we're going to shift Beatrix, and she's going to do on turn 1 magic cover and then general mitigation for herself. Our Cetra Aerith is going to do Holy Imbue, then Protect and Shell, as well as, doesn't really matter what else. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Summerfina and Lid are going to just 3 times hit the boss to get rid of that Mirage stack. Now Elena is going to triple. We're going to Crystal Refraction, and then Double Blade of Salvation. And then Starlight Elena is going to just triple Gemini. Now, we didn't get rid of all the Mirage yet, so some of these are going to miss, but most of them should still hit. There we go. Now the Mirage is gone. We've got plans for the Mirage going forward. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, so now the boss can do some magic damage on turn 1. He also might do some single target physical damage on Runda. He's provoking. If that does happen, Runda's going to get hit decently hard because he doesn't have any general mitigation at all right now. But with no modifiers, it's totally fine. Okay, now Runda is going to use his LB for that general mitigation buff. Summerfina and Lid can now put up, let's put up Aqua Hunter for the killer. Let's do Aqua Replenishment for mana regen, and then we'll just break the boss again. Beatrix can do Curega to heal the party, and then just reapply her general mitigation. Aerith can do her LB for a bigger Holy Amplify. And now let's do a Sword Imperil and double chain, and then Starlight Elena just triple Gemini Blades to chain it up. With Elena's intrinsic ability, we deal pretty decent damage. So here we go. It's not the highest because, you know, we are using super, super budget gear, but, you know, it's something. So here's the boss. He does his attacks. This turn is a lot of physical damage, but thanks to Runda's LB, we've got really high physical mitigation. So it's even though with like super low end gear, it's totally fine. Here's some magic damage as well. Now notice the boss has Mirage again. So to get rid of that, we're going to use Aerith to just do Barrage. We're not dual wielding it, just a single Barrage with one hand that is totally fine. There we go. Mirage is gone. Let's go ahead and do Runda's SLB for even more mitigation. Let's do Summerfina and Lid. We'll go ahead and heal the party, mana regen, and then we'll just refresh Aqua Hunter because why not? Reload these guys, but we want Elena to swap to Light Imperil and double Salvation. Don't waste all your Magnuses yet. And then Beatrix can do, let's refresh Shelga, and then just cover again because whatever. And let's go ahead and chain it up. more damage here. We might push the threshold. If so, sure. If not, whatever. Doesn't really matter either way. We did push the threshold. That's okay. Okay, so at the top of the menu, look at the morale bar. Notice this party is not feeling morale at all, basically. So this turn, the boss is going to be able to use Scarring Despair. Oh, actually, that one, who cares? The one that matters is Motionless Despair. That's the little circle. So actually, he won't get that until like turn 5. But the little circle is a single target stop ability. It ignores provoke. So in order to deal with that, we're going to use Runda on Lakshmi to buff stop immunity for the party. We're not feeling morale, so the boss is going to use his stop attack at some point. So there we go. That's going to stop the party from being stopped. The boss has Mirage again, so we'll just barrage it away with Aerith. Fina and Lid can do an attack to get rid of the last stack of Mirage, and then we'll just do Aqua and some mana regen. Beatrix can just refresh her mitigation, and then Shelga. And we can start chaining again. So let's go ahead and just chain it up. I think we've got 1 or 2 more turns of Sword and Peril remaining. Oh, 4 turns. Yeah, we're good. So we're just going to save the last Sword and Peril charge for later. And then Starlight Lena can just triple Gemini Blade. Wait for the Barrage to get rid of all of the Mirage stacks. Now, one more thing to mention while we're talking about morale. You see the square morale skill? The square one is called Enervating Despair. That's an AoE dispel, and that'll probably get your party killed if the boss does that. So if your morale drops so far that you go beyond the square skill, and then 3 more turns pass, and the boss gets a chance to cast Enervating Despair, that may kill your party, which means you need to either just kill the boss quicker, which is what we're going to do, or you need to add some way to fill morale gain so that the boss doesn't actually reach that square skill. But if he does, so here's the Scarring Despair. Scarring Despair is just a healing reduction. We don't really care about that. It's a very minor healing reduction. So here's some attacks on the party. You know, the damage is relatively low if you're not using any modifiers. But this coming up turn, the boss is going to get that Motionless Despair, which is going to stop someone, except, like I said, we have stop immunity from Runda. And now we're going to go ahead and use Runda to cast Calamity Border. That's just to gain a little bit of morale to slow the degeneration of morale per turn. Elena's got to always put up her Crystal Refraction every other turn. Aerith can use her LB to re-imbue the party. Summerfina and Lid can do this. Let's go ahead and heal and keep Aqua Hunter active. And did that heal enough with the healing reduction? Not really. So Beatrix is going to go ahead and refresh. Actually, won't even need that. So we're just going to use Curega twice because we do have a healing reduction. It's a little bit of a strong heal. I said it was minor, and it kind of is, but when using budget gear, I guess it is a little bit something. Let's go ahead and chain this up again. And alright, this turn, the boss will use Motionless Despair. He doesn't die. Oh, he didn't die. That's fine. So here's Motionless Despair. It would stop someone, but we're immune because of the Lakshmi buff. And here's some more attacks on the boss. Now, the boss just got rid of all his buffs this turn. So even if he wasn't at 2% health, this is the turn we would deal a ton of damage. And if you're saving like a really big burst skill, you want to save it for turn 5. Now, because the boss is in Phase 2, he does have a really strong attack and magic buff, which is why Beatrix got hit so hard. But that's fine. Now, notice the boss did apply Mirage this turn. So to deal with that, once again, we barrage that away. Now, Barrage only removes 4 stacks because we're not dual-wielding Aerith. So the last stack we're going to get rid of with Deep Sea Swimming, that's actually an attack. It'll get rid of a Mirage stack. And we're going to... Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh my god. I'm all over the place here. Alright, we're going to Deep Sea Swimming, and we're going to double cast Beach Parasol to heal a little bit. Runda will obviously maintain that mitigation. Beatrix will, once again, Shelga and Curega, just in case. You know, we're going to kill the boss here, obviously, but I'm setting you up in case you didn't kill the boss. But notice our morale gain has degenerated to the point that we are in the negative beyond the square skill. So 3 turns from now, the boss would be using Enervating Despair, which is kind of a party wipe because he does that, you lose all your buffs, then the boss starts attacking you, and obviously, bad things would happen. So I guess turn 9 with this party is kind of like your soft enrage check. You got to beat the boss by turn 9. If you're not beating him by turn 9, you're going to have to add a way to gain morale. So like Kresnik or something like that. But we are killing him by turn 9, so we're good. So let's go ahead and finish off this fight right here. And there it is. There is your super easy way to handle this boss. I'll show you the gear in a moment. Very, very budget. We didn't use the EX3 skill on Elena, etc., etc., and you can definitely use better options. But for a budget run where you're not really building morale, you kind of want to stick to units that don't rely on morale. Like, for example, Louise and stuff, they can deal okay damage, but they really rely on that morale gauge. So I really recommend, for a budget run where you're not filling morale, go with DPS that don't need morale. So what are our weaknesses? Oh, here's the damage breakdown. Obviously, Elena carries that. Neovision's Elena is terrible for damage these days. So what are the weaknesses again? What are the other good options? Fire, lightning, and light. Okay, so Knight's a Grandshelt, Kane, the Dragoon, Fire is Tyvis, and then obviously the classics like Esther, Chizuru, all of those are good even without morale. They of course get even better with morale, but even without morale, things like Esther and Chizuru, still super, super strong. Someone like, for example, Sky or Wilk, their damage is not super great without morale, so I wouldn't really use them for a budget run because you're not filling the morale gauge. But if you are filling the morale gauge, then things like Sky or Wilk can hit extremely hard. Oh, Beach Olive is another great option. Even if you don't have high morale, Beach Olive will still deal extremely high damage. So if you happen to pull for her, great option to bring here for a budget run. So the gear we used, in the base form, we started in the base form with the Celestite Rod, the Treasured Ring, Wisdom of Pest, the classics. And then the shift form is where we tanked. We had 200 water and earth resist. That gives us, without the modifiers turned on, that gives us permanent immunity to all the water and earth damage. Because the boss only uses a 100 in peril, and with no modifiers on, you're not taking any additional penalties to your resistances. Other than that, general bulk. So, why is she not using a shield? What? Are you kidding me? It didn't even matter. Spear 57. I'm still confused how her shield got taken off. It probably got taken off because of that stupid bug. Well, whatever. Well, we used a Beatrix with no shield on. Whoopsie. It didn't matter, but put on a shield. Put on a shield. Anyway, here's the gear we used. Just some generic bulk. This is all basically free, either free gear or TMR level, free card, etc. And there we go. And double check your gear that you don't make that kind of mistake. Runda is passive provoke. You can go evasion if you want. It does help for a few turns, but honestly, you don't really need it because the boss does relatively low physical damage against Runda. Passive provoke, he's getting 20% from his special shield, 20% provoke, and he gets 80% from his special arm. So that's 100% provoke, even if you don't have the diadem. If you do have it, obviously wear it. So here's the build we're using, just, generic bulk, defense, and HP. Also, Rage Beast Roar, because we need him to dispel his own auto cover on turn 1. And then I gave him Calamity Border, some auto buffing, and whatever stuff, a cheapy card, and there we go. He passive provokes. He does physical mitigation and general mitigation, as well as, well, that's really it. Summerfina and Lid, like I said, they do Aqua Killer, they do breaks, they do healing. Technically, they do water resist as well, although we didn't really need it. So just a generic build. You don't need resistances. So a little bit of defense and HP, because we are going to take some physical damage during this. Here's, cheap gear, etc. A generic card with some spirit on it. So there we go, sure. Cetra Descendant Aerith is our holy support. That's really all she does, but she also does Shell and Protect on turn 1, because we don't have because Beatrix is an old unit. She can only double cast, so she can't apply all the mitigations at once on turn 1. So Aerith handles that. She also does holy stuff, and we gave her a source of barrage to get rid of 4 stacks of Mirage when the boss does it. Now, if you want her to be able to get rid of all of the Mirage all by herself, you could make her dual wield, and then she would get rid of 8 stacks, but the boss only has 5. And we gave her just an MP card for mana regen, because, you know, whatever. And there we go. Now, if you want to, you could also use her shift form and go fire. Her shift form is fire support. So that's an option. If you want to go like, you know, Tigress or something, and then you can use Aerith to keep the good fire amplify up, etc. There we go. Same thing. And give her some LB per turn if you can. I gave her 12 LB per turn. That way she can maintain her LB. Although if you can't, her regular skill is still a 30% amplify with some stat. It's not as good, but the LB is better if you can keep it up. Neovision's Awakened Elena is just chain damage versus Aqua and Bird. Again, very, very budget run, all cheap gear, no STMRs, just whatever stuff, free card. And we've got 225 Avian, 100 Aqua. The reason I chose her is because not only does she chain triple bolting strike every turn, but she also does a 130 Holy Imperil, and she does a 25% Sword Imperil. Now, obviously, Starlight Elena can do both of those at EX3, but in case yours was not EX3, I didn't want to rely on that. So, dual wield build, very cheap build, versus Birds and Aqua. Her intrinsic ability, all free equipment, a free card, and we've got 200 Avian and 250 Aqua. And yeah, her EX2 is totally fine. EX1 is fine, it would be less damage. And there it is, there's the budget run, but again, the DPS is very flexible. So the whole team is really. The only one you really want for a budget run is Runda. And Runda is completely free. So there it is. Hope it helps. See you next time.